home for life hacks, life lessons, all things positive and building a better you. I'm your host, Rob Robertson, the owner of my Warrior Ethos Life Coaching here in Sierra Vista, broadcasting to you live from the Warrior Healing Center. Hope everybody's had a good couple of weeks since the last time we talked. I don't really have anything going on personally, of major import to report other than I'm officially moving to Tombstone. Kind of started staying out there this week at our property out there. And I did go ahead and I got bored while I was off over the last couple of weeks and went ahead and started the process to sign up for my doctorate with the Liberty University. Going to do a doctorate in leadership. So my time away from school is going to be very short-lived, although it doesn't look like I'll be able to pick up until the next cycle with Liberty, which is going to be in May. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the last school I was at to go ahead and confirm my master's on me until April 1st. That's the next graduating cycle for them, and I tried my best to get them to bump that up, since at this point it's just a paperwork drill, and I really wanted to go ahead and get that finished and move on, and they said it wasn't possible, so I'll have to wait till April 1st to get the official degree conferred on me, although everything's already completed, and like I said, it's just a paperwork drill at this point. And then after that, the next cycle I can pick up with Liberty University is going to be on May 15th, I think it is. So right now my official start date for my doctorate with Liberty is May 15th. So that's about everything personally I got going on. Just show that I kind of live my own word. I kind of keep pressing forward, as I like to say, ever forward. I don't like to take a backward step. Like to keep something positive going on. Like to keep goals in my life. So that way I don't get stagnant and don't fall into any bad habits, so to speak. I like to stay focused on something and have goals I'm trying to accomplish and achieve, and so that's where I'm at right now. So originally last month I told you guys I was going to talk about some stuff from the book Extreme Ownership by Leif Babin and Jocko Willink, and I've decided I'm going to go on a different tack this time because something kind of came up to me, and I'm not going to get into specifics of the particular incident, but something kind of came up that gave me a moment and a pause for thought about how we tend to worry about things. And I had an incident happen where it kind of caused me to have some worry about things, as I like to say, for all of about 7.58 seconds. But just the fact that my mind went there at all is really kind of what I want to discuss. And one of the things about the human condition is that we have, in the human mind, we have great capacity for many things. I think one of the greatest capacities we have is the capacity for imagination, to think outside the box, to look at things from a different perspective. I think it's what sets us apart from most of the other, and whether you want to hear this or not, the other animals on the face of the planet, is our ability for imagination. I mean, just think about what the human mind is conceived of in its history. We have made incredible technological gains. We've made incredible medical gains, particularly in the last 100 years. We have put a man on the moon. We have created computers. There is the internet, the ability to communicate. If you had somebody that was watching this right now, they'd almost say this was something akin to magic, is my ability to communicate my message to you every couple of weeks. That's an incredible achievement. If you look at nuclear power, another thing that's just an incredible achievement that we've managed to create. We've found cures for numerous things, even going back to times of antiquity, the bubonic plague, We've seen polio, the cure for polio in the last 100 years, smallpox, and of course we know that there's advances being made in medicine, every day. So you can just look around you and find examples of the technological and medical wonders everywhere. Yeah, and that all came from human imagination. I don't think anything has typified more about human imagination, at least from my perspective, than Star Trek. The flip phone has direct ties into the communicator from Star Trek, the original series. You can see iPads on Star Trek: The Next Generation long before they were ever invented or used in any real tangible way. Obviously, the internet was a discussion on various Star Trek episodes. So man's ability to imagine things has led us to a lot of great advances in our societies, in our culture. But the flip side of that too is that sometimes our imagination can be a bit of a hindrance, because we have a tendency to let our imagination run away from us, sometimes in negative aspects, and it creates something that we call worry. And we tend to worry about things because our imagination will tend to take us to a spot maybe that we don't want to be at. And kind of comes back to saying, you got to mind your mindset. There's actually a book called that. I just saw it today. Unfortunately, I didn't get the author's name. It kind of scrolled through and something I was looking at. But you do have to kind of mind your mindset a little bit, or it will lead you into negative places. But a lot of times with situations we get involved with, or things that we worry about, we tend to make them worse because we let our imagination kind of get carried away with us. And I'm going to go over some things here that I found today of some things that we tend to worry about that we tend to maybe blow out of proportion a little bit. And these are in no particular order as far as importance or as far as level of how they affect us. I do think there's some things that we tend to worry about more, and I'll get into that as I bring them up. But these were some top 20 things that I found, once again, on the internet. Great invention brought to us by imagination, that we tend to worry about. And the number 20 thing it talked about was worried about the area I live in or crime events, crime levels. And of course, we know right now crime is, according to the FBI and various other law enforcement agencies, is at an all-time high. So that's one reason to be concerned about it. Obviously, those of us that live down here on the southern Arizona border have issues with what's happening on the border. So we see crime in our everyday lives. But it is something that people can worry about, and you kind of wonder, well, what if something happens to me? How will I protect myself? How will I protect my family? And sometimes we can take those situations to extreme on how we think about them. Number 19, our pet's health. Many of us have service dogs, particularly disabled vets, or maybe you have emotional support animals, and just the idea of not having that animal there for you, if you let your mind kind of wander and think about that, can create some undue stress, because we can't imagine being without our service animal, or we can't imagine being without our emotional support animal. Or for some of us, those animals are just as much family as anything else it is. So the idea that we would not have that with us is kind of a tough thing to get around. Your appearance. Some people take that to extreme. In some ways, you wonder what other people think of you as far as your dress and otherwise. I'm not one of those people. I tend to wear T-shirts a lot with different motivational sayings on them. I'm not one that's really driven too much by dress to some degree. As long as I look nice and my clothes are clean, I'm pretty good. But some people, that's not good enough. They have to be dressed in a three-piece suit or something really fancy or something really nice, and they feel if they're not in that, it kind of hurts their own self-esteem, because they think that other people don't see them as good as what they are or what they could be just based on their dress or their appearance. So that's number 18 on the list. meeting work targets or meeting work goals. Of course, I'm gonna talk a lot about work in this list. There's probably 3 or 4 different things tied into work or money that are of issue. But this is number 17, meeting work targets or work goals. I think all of us do worry about that to some degree. Am I going to get everything that my boss wants me to get done in a timely manner, in a timely fashion, which is always important. It can be stressful trying to get those things done. For me, I'm one of those type of people that I come to work every day, worried that if I don't get everything done that I'm supposed to, I'm probably going to get fired. I probably let my mind make things worse than what they really are sometimes when it comes to my work. But at the same time, I do get it. You want to get the things that are in front of you done as quickly as possible and done in a timely manner and done properly. Being a good parent and raising your kids right. If you're a parent at all of us worry about our kids and, what's going on with them. What are we giving them the right information? Who are they hanging out with? What activities are they involved in? Are they positive or negative? So those are, some of those things that sometimes if particularly when they get into their teenage years and they're not right in front of us all the time, we're kind of concerned about what they're doing and what choices they're making. And sometimes I think that we do let our own imagination get away from us on that and worry about maybe things that aren't necessarily true, and we don't trust them quite as much, and that can have some pretty negative outcomes. Number 15, family issues, family problems. Maybe you've had an argument with your spouse or a sibling or a parent, and maybe it has caused some bad feelings, but at the same time you magnify those feelings based on what happened and make them worse than maybe what they really are. Whenever you consider maybe it just takes a breath for a second, it'll kind of blow itself out, or maybe it's not quite as bad as what you thought that led to the argument to begin with. Again, the next one, number 13, whether or not your partner still loves you. I think that you can look back at the previous one and maybe sometimes get into a misunderstanding about some things. Of course, both of these are situations. Actually, any of these situations, if you stop and think about it, can be cured with a little bit of communication. You sit down with that other person, maybe that you're having a disagreement with, or maybe that you're not sure about what's going on. If you just sit down and communicate with them and say, hey, what's going on? Help me understand here. I think I'm, maybe letting my imagination run away with me here, and they can usually eliminate most of your fears or alleviate them to some degree. But you have to be willing to go out and not only communicate, but be able to have the open mind to listen to that message at the same time. Sometimes when we're in the workforce, again, here comes back to work. Do you need to find a new job? Is it time to move on? Are you getting clues or things that they're telling you that it's time to look at other opportunities? Maybe you've outgrown that job. It's not necessarily that you can't do it well anymore. Maybe you've just outgrown it. That does happen. Whether that's through education or training or whatever. And sometimes it's not necessarily mean that you're leaving the company you're with. Maybe you're just applying for another job inside that company. But there's still that stress that goes into making that change to go to another department or to another position, whether it's with the same company or a different company. And again, your own mind can make things out to be worse than what they are, because you may ask yourself, well, am I ready for that challenge? Have I overstepped my bounds here by doing this? Have I taken on a task that I can't tackle? Or at the same time, you wonder, well, is the money coming in going to still be, what I want it to be? Or the people I'm going to work with, are they going to accept me? Or are they going to give me a hard time? How's that all going to work out? So 1,000,001 questions over taking another job, and sometimes we tend to, again, blow it out of proportion as opposed to what it really is. Sometimes it could just be a matter of how you feel. This is number 10 on the list, getting into the top 10, so to speak. Am I generally unhappy with life? Sometimes I know I've been guilty of this myself. I look at the situation I'm in, and sometimes I think I make things worse than what they really are. Maybe get more concerned about things than I should be, or overthink things. And that's probably true of everything on the list. I guess the bottom line is, are you overthinking the situation that you're in? And sometimes we tend to forget to count our blessings, and we just kind of look at the negative aspects of stuff. So again, am I unhappy because there is a situation making me unhappy, or am I unhappy because I'm making myself unhappy? That's really the ultimate question. Money issues, another big one. Money issues. Am I able to pay my rent? Am I able to pay my bills? Am I able to make my car payment? Am I going to be able to afford my grocery bill this week? I know, particularly when you get into your senior years, if you're retired, you read stories all the time about, buying food versus buying medication. You always want to have that feeling that you can afford everything that you need to afford. And so it can be a little tough sometimes, trying to look at all your bills and make sure you got enough money coming in. And you're going to run into times where, maybe car repairs or things that break at the house, or you need to replace something like the furnace goes out, or the air conditioning quits working, or something that ends up being a really big high ticket item. It gets to be tough to afford, and particularly in these days when so many of us anymore don't have a savings account to fall back on, like you probably did at one time when the economy was somewhat better. It can get to be tough whenever you're looking at expenses versus what you got, and trying to make the two of them jive together can be real tough. Or what you're paying at the grocery store a year ago only cost you $200, is now costing you $300, and you start to wonder, well, where can I make cutbacks, or what makes sense. So aging gets to be an issue. We all worry about being able to take care of ourselves as we get older, both financially, physically, and even the day-to-day tasks that we do. We begin to question and ask ourselves, do we have the ability to take care of everything that's going on in our lives, again, particularly when we do get older. And ours is probably one of the societies in the world, one of the few that doesn't value the elderly, I think, to a greater degree. It seems like when you get older, particularly in America, it seems like the older you get, the less value it seems like that we place on things sometimes. And I think people tend to get that feeling that nobody wants to listen to what they have to say whenever they get older, when they can be a whole wealth of knowledge. So the aging process, again, can I take care of myself? Can I take care of my family? Can I take care of my responsibilities? Can I take care of my finances, et cetera, et cetera? Can be a big issue the older you get. Of course, this day and age, job security, it's tough to say. Companies fold every day anymore. So many companies are relying on maybe a single contract in order to keep their doors open. They may have multiple contracts, but they may have one that's really vital to their operation. So if you're a contractor, it can be a little tough. Contracts end. Job security all the way around can be tough. And we know every business out there is watching every penny. And not that it hasn't always been like that, but it certainly seems to be worse now than it's ever been. So, there's always scuttlebutt at work, gossip about maybe where the company's going or what's happening, or maybe they've seen something or heard something that once the rumor mill starts, things get taken out of proportion and get blown out of proportion, and everybody kind of lets their mind go a little crazy and onto what could be instead of what is, and next thing you know, if I lose my job, am I going to be able to pay my mortgage? Am I going to be able to pay my rent, my car payments? What am I going to do for food? Am I going to have to leave the area if I do take another job? Pick up my kids and move them to another school because I had to take another position. It's just a whole lot of stuff to think about. Again, financial situations get to be a big issue. You know, they said in America right now, 70% of the country is living paycheck to paycheck. That's an awful lot of us. So, you know, people have to start getting creative about how they pay their bills, and, you know, maybe you have to live off credit cards for a while, try to get things straight. And, you know, next thing you know, you take a hit. And, you know, so people worry about getting those bills paid. You know, once again, go back up and see about, you know, making the rent payments, making the mortgage payments, you know, making medical payments, you know, whatever those payments may be. Do I have enough money coming in to do that? And again, your mind, you know, can kind of have a lot of worry, a lot of stress, and a lot of anxiety over what can happen over those things. Next couple of issues that come up, these are number 4 and number 3 on the list, are diet and low energy levels. And I kind of tie these two in together because I do think, you know, it seems to me when people get depressed and whenever they start having anxiety and worry issues, they tend to kind of let their diet go. And when, you know, as the diet goes, so goes the energy level. And, you know, I will say that no matter how bad things are going, you really do need to pay attention to what you're eating and what you're doing. It can make all the difference in the world if you really want the strength to fight the problems that you're facing. You know, you can't let as your mental health goes, so goes your physical health. And I do appreciate the fact that, you know, in the last, I think, probably 20 years or so, the idea of mental health being just as important as physical health is a really healthy thing. No pun intended, or not meaning to repeat the same word over and over again, but I think it's a good thing that mental health is, you know, maybe finally starting to get a center stage, because it is just as important as your mental health. Because trust me, yeah, your mental health can definitely affect your physical health. I mean, they don't call it dis-ease for nothing. So making sure you keep up with your diet, making sure you keep that going and keeping those energy levels up so you have the ability to, you know, kind of fight back against your worry and your stress and your anxiety is super important. And that's kind of everything on the list. I mean, the list has 20 items on it, but probably about 5 or 6 of them are the same, so I'm not going to keep going over the same thing over and over again. A lot of it does revolve around job leads to money leads to you know, concerns about other things, paying the rent, paying the mortgage, paying the medical bills, you know, maybe paying for your kid's school, your car payment. Just seems like we got 1,000,001 payments anymore that, you know, everybody's responsible for. You know, money kind of feeds into everything. You know, if you are concerned about your parents, do you have the money to buy the clothes that you think is going to make you appear to be better and kind of affect your mental health? Those are just all things to consider. And if you're concerned, you know, about looking, here's some signs and symptoms you can see that may tell you that you're having some issues with mental anxiety, mental stress, and worry. Avoiding social situations. If you're intentionally going out of your way to avoid maybe going to a party or a family get-together, or, you know, maybe there's something going on at work where everybody's getting together and you're just avoiding it altogether, that can be a sign of anxiety. If all you can focus on is the worry and the problems, again, you know, that's another key indicator. If you're just to the point you can't function because of excessive worry, it's something you need to get looked at, you know, whether you're talking with friends, family. You know, the biggest thing is, again, back to, you know, communicating, find somebody to talk to. If you're feeling tense, you got that fight or flight syndrome that you know, people tend to have whenever they get into these situations. You know, again, that's another key indicator that you're struggling with some mental issues. If you're snapping at everybody around you, you're really angry all the time. And then, of course, finally, physical symptoms, which can be muscle tension, headaches, and fatigue. And I'll even go into flu-like symptoms. I mean, if you're having nausea all the time, you know, stomach issues of all kinds, you just don't feel good, you're dragging around, you know, back to the low energy, just don't want to do anything, you know, normal activities that you normally participate in, you stop doing because you just don't feel like doing them. I even throw in there that normal day-to-day activities, if you start letting your hygiene go, or you start not, doing things like your laundry, or let your house go, or you're not picking up after yourself, all those could be signs and symptoms of anxiety and stress and worry that, that you should be aware of. Sleep problems. Are you sleeping at night, or are you obsessing on what's wrong? Again, it's something you're going to want to keep keep in the forefront of your mind. And lastly, restlessness. You can't sit still. Maybe you want to sit down to watch a movie, but you just can't focus on it. You can't focus on anything that you're doing. Even the most mundane of tasks seem to be like a monumental effort to keep that focus going. And so all of these are signs and symptoms of perhaps having too much stress, or too much anger, or too much anxiety. You're worrying about things maybe more than what you should be. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being concerned about situations. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is you can't let it get to a point where it's ruling your life to the point where you can't accomplish anything. And that's not good. It's not going to make it easy for you, or not make it beneficial to you to be able to go out and address those issues and get them fixed and get them taken care of. Particularly, is the situation ruling you, or are you ruling the situation? That's really what it ultimately boils down to. And so, what are some things you can do? Obviously, I've told you everything that's wrong. Let's talk about some things that we can do to address this. Number one, exercise. Engaging in physical activity may help prevent or treat anxiety. Studies have found that getting regular physical activity can help protect against feelings of anxiety. I know how it works for me. My energy levels, my mental state, everything. As I've told you guys many times, I go to Planet Fitness 3 to 4 nights a week. I can't tell you the benefit I get out of that. And my wife will tell you, she can tell there's a big difference. She can tell the weeks that I've had a lot of time in the gym, and the weeks I have not had a lot of time in the gym. So again, that's a big one to me, is making sure you're getting out there and getting some physical activity and keeping yourself moving. Next thing is focus on what you can control. Worrying about things you have no control over only adds to feelings of stress and anxiety. Focus your attention on the things that are under your control. So, there's an old saying about you can't control what happens, but you can control how you react to it sometimes. And nothing is more true than this right here. So maybe I can't control the specific incident that happened to me. It's like right now with what I'm going to, it kind of stressed me out, the fact that I couldn't get my last school to go ahead and confirm my degree to move it up. I don't have any control over that. But what I can control is how I've reacted to it. So I can find other things to fill in. Until then, there's some other projects and stuff I want to get done over the next couple of months that I'm working on right now, as opposed to just throwing my hands up and going, well, I'm going to be all stressed out over this. I can work on these other projects until May 15th rolls around, and then that'll keep me kind of occupied. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what you have to do. You have to look at that situation and say, well, maybe I can't control this, but maybe I can control that. And one of the things I heard said once is, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I do know what I can do. And so that's what I try to focus on. Practice gratitude. Experiencing gratitude has shown to have a number of positive health effects, including reducing feelings of anxiety. So, be happy with what you have at the moment. Don't be so focused on what you don't have, but focus on what you do have. Which can help you out tremendously. Be focus on the positive, don't focus on the negative. That's what I'm getting at. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Again, we talked about restlessness. We talked about not getting enough sleep at night. One of the biggest things to do is make sure you got to be able to turn it off. At some point, you got to flip a switch and say, well, you know what, there's nothing else I can do about this today. I'm going to go get some rest. And that one sometimes can be a tough road to hoe. I'll be the first one to admit that myself. I've had nights where, something that's been bothering me is I've kind of carried it into bed, and it's kind of kept me awake a little bit longer than what I'd like to. And so, that's something you just kind of got to focus on. So how can you get your mind off this stuff? Well, again, I've heard people do do mad cleaning. They get upset about something. They do what's called mad cleaning. Again, just focus on some chores or something you need to get done and get your mind off of it. Sometimes mundane events will allow you to kind of get into a situation where you don't focus on the negative. You kind of focus on the positive. Again, exercise. Pick up a book, magazine, or a newspaper. Focus on something completely different. Heck, you may even pick up a book that has something to do with the topic that's bothering you, and it might give you some steps or some thoughts or some ideas on how to get away from that. Organize your home or office. I think sometimes something doesn't help more than getting organized whenever you feel like things are a little bit out of control. Again, back to what can I control? Well, I can organize my area. I can organize my space. I can organize it so that way it's more functional. So that way whenever it is time to address the issue, I'm more organized to do that. Watch a funny movie. Nothing brightens me more than Caddyshack. Flip on Caddyshack. Flip on Office Space. Find something funny. What floats your boat? What makes you laugh? What gives you that... what movie gives you a chuckle? Throw that on. Get that mind going someplace else. And back to the exercise thing for a minute. If you get the exercise going good enough, you release this thing called endorphins. And endorphins, are kind of like a body's natural high. So you get those going through your brain, and helps you feel better. And again, engage in a productive activity. So maybe I can't do anything to this over here, but maybe there's some project that I get done. So maybe if I go, there's some painting I've been meaning to do, I'm going to go get that done. There's a cabinet I've been meaning to build. I'm going to go get that done. There's some errands I've been needing to run. I'm going to go get that done. Again, it's just about progress, momentum. Momentum builds success. So you complete a task, and it allows you to complete another task, which allows you to complete another task. And if you get a minute, go watch a video on YouTube by Rear Admiral McCraven called "Make Your Bed." It's about a 6 or 7 minute video, and he talks about that. He talks about how you get up in the morning and you complete a task, and that first task of the day, if you allowed you to do another task, and then another task, and then another task, and you build on each task's success to move on to the next one. And even if you have a completely crazy, he talks about this as in making your own bed. If you do that at the beginning of the day, because at the end of the day, you come home to a bed that's made. And even if the rest of the day has just been a crappy day, you come home to a bed that's made, a bed you made, a task you completed. So you can at least come home to success at the end of the day. But it's a really great video. You can find it on YouTube. It was done at the University of Texas, Arlington, I think, a graduation ceremony about within the last 5 years or so. Rear Admiral McCraven. So check that out. And of course, the biggest thing is if nothing else works, if you've tried everything, get support, get some help, talk to somebody. There's plenty of hotlines out there. There's plenty of resources in your community. Phone a friend, call a relative. Sit down and say, hey, I really need to talk about this. Sometimes I found the best person for me to talk to was myself. I know that sounds a little bit arrogant, but when I started my path of getting myself back on the right track, I always like to tell people I had, several very uncomfortable conversations with myself. And I found myself out to be a pretty good listener. And then the more I talked to myself, the more I was able to kind of face some things. But, ultimately, if you're really feeling bad about things and you're not making any progress or progress that you feel that you should be making, look to get some professional help. There's nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't say that you're crazy, that you're out of your mind, that, going to see a therapist or a self-help or getting a life coach like myself to sit down with them and say, hey, I'm just not making any progress on this topic and it's really tearing me up. There's nothing to go get another perspective. Go get somebody else's view on what's going wrong, or maybe you find somebody that's been through the same circumstances, and you sit down with them and talk to them for a while and say, hey, how did you get yourself out of this? And they can tell you what they did or what they didn't do, and you can use those tools to help yourself out. So anyway, that's enough on that topic. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about worry and stress and anxiety. Again, if you got something you want to talk about on this, my warrior ethos az@gmail.com is my email address. My warrior ethos az@gmail.com is my email address. Please, don't be afraid to drop me a line, and we'll discuss it further, or we can get together and talk about it. Okay, so healthy, wealthy, and wise. I've just got a few minutes to spend on this before we start to wrap up for this week. So I've got a friend that's going through some kidney stones, and he's not the first one around me that's had this. So I'm going to hit on this topic because it seems like it's in the water lately. Again, no pun intended. So I want to talk a little bit about how to avoid this. And if you're at risk for this, I guess this is something I need. Well, first off, let me back up and say I really do still need to do some more research on this, but I guess a urologist or a kidney specialist or something like that is somebody you need to be talking to if you're at risk for this. But I did find some helpful tips on cutting down on the amount of kidney stones you may have, or at least reducing their severity. Of course, anytime you have them, you want to seek medical attention. Let's just start right there. Of course, the first thing is avoid stone-forming foods. Beets, chocolate, spinach, rhubarb, tea, and most nuts are rich in oxalate, and colas are rich in phosphate, both of which can contribute to kidney stones. So basically what's happening with a kidney stone is your body doesn't have, some people's bodies in particular don't have abilities to get rid of the minerals. The minerals will build up in your system. So you kind of see that show up in terms of kidney stones, gallstones, and other things. So if your body has a hard time ejecting minerals out, this is something you're definitely going to want to think about. Limit animal protein. Eating too much animal protein, such as meat, eggs, and seafood, boosts the level of uric acid and could lead to kidney stones. A high protein diet also reduces the level of citrate, the chemical in urine that helps prevent stones from forming. And I think you'll find uric acid also in people who suffer from gout. So if you suffer from kidney stones, you may also suffer from gout as well. Again, it's just a buildup of minerals in your system. Your body can't quite kick it out like it should be able to. Reduce sodium. Sodium, again, another mineral. High sodium diet can trigger kidney stones because it increases the amount of calcium in your system. Federal guidelines suggest limiting total daily sodium intake to 2,300 milligrams. So try to keep it down to that. Matter of fact, they try to reduce it down to 1,500 milligrams if you are at risk for kidney stones. Get the calcium you need. Getting too little calcium in your diet can cause oxalate levels to rise and cause kidney stones to form. Making sure, again, you take in the appropriate amount of calcium for your age. Men 50 or older should get 1,000 milligrams of calcium per day, along with 1,000 IU of vitamin D to help the body absorb the calcium. So I suffer from low vitamin D, so I take it as a supplement. But definitely, vitamin D I know is another thing. Your vitamin D you basically get from sunlight is one of the big contributors to that. So if you don't get out enough, you're going to have to supplement it somehow. So vitamin D is one of those things that says to improve your intake on. So again, don't take my word, please, on anything you're going to do. Any type of change you're going to make to your diet, anything you're going to do as far as taking a supplement or anything else, I highly, highly, highly recommend you go see your doctor. I'm just reading off stuff that I found from different medical journals and such that they bring this information up. So again, if you're going to make a change to your diet, going to make a change to your living habits, make sure you're talking to a doctor. And definitely with an exercise regimen, make sure you're definitely talking to a doctor before you jump right into that to make sure what you're going to do is good for you. The last thing to talk about on here is drinking plenty of water. Drinking extra water dilutes the substances in urine that lead to stones. Strive to drink enough fluids to pass 2 liters of urine a day, which is roughly 8 standard 8-ounce cups of water. You can also do citrus beverages like lemonade and orange juice. They also block the formation of stones. So there are some things you can do here to kind of supplement the water if you don't want to drink too much water. And if you're trying to figure out, because I always hear people say this, and I'll be the first one to say I'm in that same boat. You know, how do I get down to 8 cups of water a day? Well, drink a cup every time you go to the bathroom. You know, best way I know to track it. I probably don't drink as much water as I should. Although I'm probably at least reasonably close. I'm probably in that, half gallon to a gallon a day, but, which would be the 8 standard 8-ounce cups, but still it just feels to me like sometimes I don't get enough. Very often on some days that I do feel a little dehydrated. Prevent those stones, folks. From what I understand, I've been fortunate. I've never had to deal with them, but from what everybody tells me that does, they tell me they are incredibly painful and incredibly debilitating. So to sum up, guys, let's watch our mental health out there. There's all kinds of ways to take care of that. Exercise, doing things that are positive, talking to people, getting out and about, being part of your community is a big help. Go visit friends, go visit family, do something. Don't sit at home and dwell on things. That's not going to help anything. Find ways to, no problem is unsolvable if you get enough brains in a room. I can tell you that. Sometimes it's just a matter of talking to the right person. So, don't be closed off from the world. Go out and seek help when you need it. That's all I have for this 2-week period. Now, next time on my next show is supposed to be on Tuesday, March the 7th. Right now, I'm not sure that's going to happen. I'll have to get back with you. Or I may see if I can do it later. Get with the folks here at Warrior Healing Center and see if they have any problem with me doing it later on in the week. For that week, I have an appointment up in Tucson at the VA myself. Been battling a hernia, but based on my last appointment, it's not so big that anything really needs to happen. Got a small perforation, but it doesn't seem to be affecting me. There's no pain with it. It's not affecting anything that I'm doing. So as long as that's the case, I think I'm gonna pass on any kind of surgery at this point. I'm just gonna let it kind of take care of itself. It's a hole about the size of your pinky, and I'm not, doesn't seem to be affecting anything. So actually going under the knife may present more complications than just ignoring it. So that's where I kind of think I am at this point, is just as long as it's not creating any further issues for me, I think I'm just going to ignore it. And again, this gets back into one of those things, I can sit around and worry about it, but what would be the point? It seems to be handled. My doctor's not worried. I'm not worried. I'm doing everything that I want to do, every day. And I'm just ever forward on everything that, how I am. Rolling stone gathers no moss, and I just kind of keep plugging away. So, it's probably not something I'm going to do a whole lot with, as long as it's not an issue, and as long as my doctor feels that everything's good to go. So that's where we are. And so let's stay safe out there. I know. Hope you all are doing well. I hope you're finding ways to keep yourself engaged. That you're finding things to move forward with. That you're being positive and staying positive. Again, if you need my help, you know where to find me. You can get a hold of me here through the Warrior Healing Center. Just get a hold of the folks down here and say, hey, I need to talk to that guy, Rob, that's on every other Tuesday night and with Level Up Live. And or you can just email me at mywarriorethosaZ at gmail.com. That's mywarriorethosaZ at gmail.com. So until we meet again, may the sun shine on you and you stay warm and you keep pushing forward. Dream big, dare to fail, for fortune always favors the bold. Y'all take care now. I'll see you next time.